All right. Well, good morning, everybody. As Nicole mentioned, Book of Mormon Central launched on January 1st of 2016. And that's literally what our website looked like hours before launch. That was a screenshot taken on December 31st. As of launch, all we really had on the website was one know why. On the martyrdom of Joseph Smith. But then the next day we added another, and then we added another, until we had, by the end of the year, 255 know whys. These published once, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday, throughout the duration of the year. And they covered a wide variety of topics, such as archaeological evidence from the Old World and from the New World, the Book of Mormon witnesses, key phrases in the Book of Mormon, the allegory of the olive tree, King Benjamin's speech, Book of Mormon names and their meanings, Nephite timekeeping, temple connections to the Book of Mormon, Isaiah in the Book of Mormon, legal studies in the Book of Mormon, warfare, geology, Psalms in the Book of Mormon, Moroni's visitation to Joseph Smith, and Nephite worship practices, the Savior's teachings in 3rd Nephi, ancient Israelite, as well as ancient American cultural practices, and on and on and on. These know whys were extensively researched over the course of the year. We cited over 1,400 different publications from over 800 different authors. And we were not just Mormons reading Mormon things. We cited 381 non-Mormon authors. And so we were engaging with the broader literature on all of these topics that I just mentioned. But we also are unabashedly a faith-promoting and faith-affirming organization, and cited church leaders 173 times and shared and built on the insights they have into the Book of Mormon. But research was not the only kind of work that went into these. They were also richly illustrated with various original as well as classic Book of Mormon art, different charts and memes and infographics that we made for the specific purposes of the know whys, and so on. And they also each had a short video summary like the one I'm about to show you. So if I can push play.
In 1 Nephi 19, Nephi wrote that he made plates of ore. Though we don't know exactly what kind of ore he used, he did mention finding gold, silver, and copper. Some might question whether or not Nephi could have used these metals, because none of them alone would make plates with the ideal balance of strength to withstand use and pliability to engrave. But did you know there was an alloy used in ancient America called tumbaga, a mixture of the 3 metals Nephi found? Copper alone would have made the plate strong enough, but difficult to write on. Tumbaga had gold and silver mixed in, creating a softer plate, which was easier to engrave. The mixture also gave the metal the weight and golden appearance described by the witnesses of the gold plates. Thus, the Tumbaga alloy is a strong and shining candidate for Nephi's and Mormon's plates. And now you know why.
So yeah, we did 255 of those videos over the course of the year as well, and that was largely the work of Nicole, who you just heard from, who is our script writer for all of those, and then Matthew Cutler was our video producer and did all of those, and it was a lot of work. We also released a mobile app in August of last year, making know whys accessible on mobile and tablet devices, both Android and Apple, and thousands of downloads have happened since August. And by the end of the year, we had begun translating our content into Spanish. And that includes both the essays as well as the videos. But of course, know whys weren't the only thing we were doing. We also had an archive that began the year with about 1,000 items and finished the year around 3,000 items. And our archivist worked very hard to network with publishers and authors to get permissions and be able to archive items there and create a central hub for for Book of Mormon research. We also were producing gospel doctrine lesson aids since it was a Book of Mormon year, and these brought together the know-whys, videos, charts, scholarly articles, as well as other gospel doctrine lessons and aids available online, all in one place. Really the most comprehensive gospel doctrine lesson aids for the Book of Mormon out there. And we shared all of this and disseminated it through social media. We had Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and other accounts. And by the end of the year, our Facebook account had grown to be just about 30,000 followers. If you want the exact number, it's 29,887. So we saw pretty tremendous growth, and we're really excited about the success we had this last year. But it was a lot of work, and it was exhausting at times. And to just discuss some of that, and to give you some insight on both what we did last year and how much work it was, but also what we have, the exciting things we have coming up, and that we're working on now this year and going on into the future. I'm going to invite some of my coworkers up here to present and join me. We have Jasmine Jimenez, who is our web developer and also a graphic designer for us. We have Dave Pack, who is our mobile app developer and programmer. And we have Jared Riddick, who is our archivist. And I have not, the other person we were expecting was Benji Monroy, who is our Spanish social media manager, but I do not believe he has made it yet. So I think it's just going to be us right now. But that's okay. Let's just go ahead and get started. To start us off, Jasmine, I wanted to have you just talk a little bit about you were designing the website, and you had to lay out each know-why and lay out the images and everything, and were really involved in the illustration process. And so why don't you just tell us a little bit about what that was like for, trying to illustrate 255 know-whys last year?
Well, it definitely was a lot of fun. Illustrating the know-whys posed a lot of challenges, but also it was, an exercise in creativity. But doing the know-whys was always a challenging experience. As you can see on the screen, this is a screenshot of the website, and for each know-why we would illustrate with different pictures, trying to explain some of the concepts we were describing. But also, if you flip to the next page, we have PDFs that we used to also illustrate the know-whys, but also it's a printer-friendly version that you can download, and Nicole and Holly were the ones who neatly typeset those. We also have memes that we used images for. We use images in almost everything we do with the know-whys because we want it to be a rich experience so that everyone is really engaged and can understand what we're trying to communicate. And so with these memes, Xander is the one who is in charge. Every single day a know-why came out, he would create a meme, take a money quote or some really something that summarizes the know-why really well, and a grabbing picture so that on Pinterest or Instagram, where we mostly posted these, someone would be interested to click on them. Also, our YouTube channel. Neal talked about the videos, and you saw one. Well, we have, over 300 of these now, and each one requires dozens of images to make it happen. And so to have this work, we have Matt Cutler, who is in charge of producing the videos, and also Angel Sturgill. Her job as our image specialist was to find all of these images. She was given a topic, and we would break down the script, and she would find an image that would work for everyone. It took a lot of time from her, but she's now, an expert on Book of Mormon images. What also we do, we need to create lots of images ourselves sometimes because we just can't find what we need on the internet or in books. So Xander and I would usually be the ones who would create something in Photoshop, like something you see here. We have the one of these is a picture of Samuel the Lamanite on the wall that we put together with various images through Photoshopping, but we also did things through photography, if you'll flip. So sometimes we would have to take pictures, and a lot of times these were things that we just did in our office. We found props that would work to illustrate something. In this case, on the bottom left, you have a picture of a Mayan calendar. We had a replica, and we were doing a know-why on Mayan calendrical systems and Samuel the Lamanite's prophecy. And so, that's what we did to try to make it work. But sometimes, we can't do it all, and so we also commission images for our no-whys. Jody Livingston is a sketch artist that does illustrate a lot of things for us. Oh, is Jody Livingston here in the audience? If you'll stand up, this is our sketch artist, and he does a great job for us. Can you also flip one? So this is one example of something we have him do, mostly when there's nothing that really has ever been illustrated this way before. And in this no-why that you see on the screen, this is about Abinadi being executed. And often, we depict the execution as Abinadi being burned at the stake. Well, this no-why talks about how that probably wasn't the case, and it's never been depicted like that before. So we had Jody depicting Abinadi being scourged with flaming faggots, as the Book of Mormon explicitly says. He's being whipped with a bundle of sticks that are on fire, which is attested in Mesoamerica. And so we had him do that for us. If you'll flip. Also, we have our art contest every year. And last year, we had great submissions. On the right, you'll see our first place winner by Matthew Warren, Other Sheep of Christ Coming to America. And on the left, you have an honorable mention by Lacey Gibbs of The Fruit of the Tree of Life. And just as a plug, we still have our upcoming contest this year. The deadline is March 26th, so if you are an artist, we'd love to get your art too. Flip. Sometimes we also need to do charts. And so we'll create those. For example, this is one of correlating how Mayan and Olmec civilization parallels very closely with Book of Mormon civilizations. And we also have chiasmus. That's a favorite thing we like to do to show how the text is structured. And also coming up is our no-why book. Covenant Communications will be publishing this year. And we had to do a lot of work to come up with new images just for this book. Even though all of our stuff is online, our no-whys are updated and edited, and we came up with never-before-seen pictures, like a couple that you're about to see. This one we had to create for Nahum, our Nahum no-why where Ishmael was buried, and that's the person you see in the picture. And also one we did on Abinadi talking about the Father and the Son and their nature. And finally, we have one, just to give you a sample, of when Almas cries, "Oh, that I were an angel." And so these are just some of the things to give you an inside peek on how we illustrate and make visually engaging what we do here at Book of Mormon Central.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that, Jasmine. So, as you can see, the no-why was a very image-rich experience and thing. We lavishly illustrated these in various ways in various mediums, and then Dave here had the challenge in August of taking that very image-rich, layout that we already had and making it really mobile-friendly. So, Dave, why don't you tell us about that challenge?
Well, it's definitely an ongoing challenge. The mobile app we have out currently was written in about 4 months. And essentially what I've got there, the content, there were already probably, close to 100 or over 100 when I came in April of last year. So there was tons of content already in HTML, and there was no way to convert it into a more friendly format. So I essentially just wrote a little very simplified browser, HTML browser there. So this first image is an example of a table, what it looked like in iOS. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to get tables to work in Android before the launch. Our next update will look like the next slide here, and it works in Android and iOS, and it's all in native code right there. So that was definitely an enormous challenge, and this is on a tablet, of course, and making it work on a mobile phone was also a challenge. Yeah.
All right. So along with that, we also had our archive developing all the time. And Jared, why don't you tell us about how the archive kind of fit into everything?
I used to be a teacher, so I don't like to sit. The archive is kind of what a lot of the things funnel back to for research we do. When we write no-whys, we have further readings and we have footnotes. And in the further reading and the footnotes, we like to be able to link directly to those sources. And the archive provides those sources so that people can really dig deeper if they want to. I don't know if Neal covered this because I was at the registration table at the beginning, but we started the year in 2016 with about 1,000 items in the archive. We now sit at about 3,210. in the archive, and that includes various journal articles from BYU Studies, The Interpreter, Fair and Mormon, the Religious Studies Center, things from old farms. We provide links to all sorts of material. We also have video and images. Let me go here's to a snapshot of the archive. There we go. As you see, everything's organized by type. It's a little bit small type, I realize that. At the top, you see some featured items, and on the right, some of the newest items. This is actually the newest stuff as of 11 o'clock last night. I waited so I'd have the most up-to-date stuff for you, not because I was procrastinating. I do not procrastinate the day of my repentance. So searching, you can also search in the middle there by publication type, whether that's journal, article, books. We have a number of books in the archive. There's also there's a lot of great public domain LDS material, stuff from the early 19th century and the early 20th century that most people haven't ever really seen. Stuff by B.H. Roberts and James E. Talmage, missionary pamphlets that they worked on, stuff that you usually won't see on there. That's available in the archive, and it's increasing every day. Just to give you an idea of some of our more popular content, every week in our email, I also send out the emails for Book of Mormon Central, and every Thursday we feature an item from the archive to send to you guys. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the emails, and you'll get some really fantastic. You'll get daily notification in your email for either a new Know Why or for an article in the archive, and it's tremendous stuff. I've heard some really great feedback from people that are really grateful for the resources we've provided. As mentioned before, we have a lot of artwork and video. We have media galleries available here where you can click through and just see in thumbnail form a lot of the stuff we've placed into the archive. For example, here in the artwork gallery, these are a few of the top items that we have in there. Especially you'll see some art by Jorge Coco, who is from, do you recall? Uruguay. And so we have some great stuff from him in the archive. Most of it's never been seen in the United States before. So yeah, that's what we have in the archive, and I really encourage you guys to check that out and make it a resource in your personal scripture study, as we hope it will be.
So the archive is becoming a great resource. And one thing Jared didn't mention, or at least I didn't hear him mention, is that we also have some content that's unpublished anywhere else in the archive. So there's exclusive content there that you're not going to get anywhere else.
We thought it was about time that, since we're talking about the Book of Mormon, we stopped having a bunch of gringos north of the Rio Grande talking to other gringos. We thought it was important that we start to involve the children of Lehi that live in the Book of Mormon lands. So we began a process to be able to co-publish in Spanish. And it's been quite a lengthy, interesting journey up to this point. But we had determined early on that since we had set a high standard for quality at Book of Mormon Central, and since our English material was beginning to set the global standard for the good stuff about the Book of Mormon, that we were not going to shortchange our Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters. And so we went out and found a fellow who's a retired PhD, college professor, been in the church for his entire life, but well-educated in the Latin American system, and he's our first translator. We then go to a fellow who is employed by the Utah National Guard that works out of that big NSA facility out there in between Bluffdale and Lehi. And he's a specialist, a professional translator. He's the second level. And he then reviews everything that our first translator does. We then go to a third level, who's a fellow that has a master's degree in translation with a specialist, especially in Spanish. At which point, we then send this material to a couple of people then in Puebla, Mexico. Alejandro, stand up. This is Alejandro Martinez from Puebla, Mexico, right here. He is not a member of the church, but he's beginning to have an appreciation for the Book of Mormon because he's reading every one of these know-whys every day and helping make sure that the Spanish makes sense, that it's something that is going to come through. And occasionally, what we find is that he says, this doesn't quite make sense. And it's a Mormonism. It's Mormon speak. We have our own little idiom in Latin America, just like we do here in the English. And there are things that we say and words that we use and phrases and so forth that we understand internally, and someone who hasn't come up through that tradition doesn't necessarily understand. Thanks, Alejandro. Appreciate that. We then get this on the website in Spanish. It's Book of Mormon Central en Español, at which time we begin to transmit that out to the world. And this is Brother Javier Tovar. He's the leading LDS archaeologist in the country of Mexico, and he is our Latin American liaison. It's his responsibility to get this material, once we've got it translated and ready to go, to get this out to the world. So Javier, tell us some of the things that you're doing. Explica algunas de las cosas que estás haciendo para difundir a Book of Mormon Central entre los países latinoamericanos.
Ok, buenos días. Estamos haciendo presentaciones en estacas, barrios,
He's making presentations in wards and stakes.
llevando a las organizaciones auxiliares a las zonas arqueológicas.
He's taking all these people to the archaeological zones. If any of the leading brethren in the church want to go down to contact the area office and take a tour of the ruins, which many of them do, this is the man that ends up taking them on the tour.
Y formando grupos de personas interesadas en el libro de Mormón.
And we're putting together groups of individuals who care about and are interested in the Book of Mormon in various places all throughout Latin America.
Y les estamos diciendo lo que tenemos en Book of Mormon Central.
And we're letting them know exactly what's available here, the resources we have, and why they should care about Book of Mormon Central.
En este momento, en nuestro país y en Latinoamérica están atentos a lo que está sucediendo en esta conferencia.
At this moment, we are live streaming this conference into Latin America. It turns out that people down there are large consumers of online video streams to their cell phones, and as we speak, we are having live notices of what's happening in this conference being beamed down there to them, and we will have hundreds, if not thousands, of people before the day's out following us in Latin America for this stream.
Las autoridades eclesiásticas de México saben de nuestro trabajo a través de mi persona.
All of the leading church authorities in the country of Mexico know all about Book of Mormon Central now because of the contacts that Javier has, and are thrilled to see what we're doing.
Y las autoridades de la iglesia, cuando van a México, van con su servidor a que les hagamos un recorrido arqueológico relacionado al libro de Mormón.
And he is the go-to guy in the area office in Mexico for taking any of the leading the church authorities on a trip through the ruins of Mexico.
Seguramente esta es una conferencia muy significativa para el habla hispana porque no se había visto algo similar.
This will be an important landmark conference for those people who speak Spanish, because our brethren and sisters down in that part of the world haven't seen something like this before.
Y a nombre de todos ellos, mis paisanos, les damos las gracias.
And so on behalf of all of his brothers and sisters that speak Spanish, he says thank you very much. And some of the feedback that's getting back to us from remote places, Spain and little rinconcitos in Argentina, places like this, the sorts of things that are coming back to us are, wow, we have expected this kind of quality material from the official church. We've never seen anything at this level by a private group. We are thrilled that there are private individuals, faithful, active Latter-day Saints, believing scholars who are producing material at this high of a level of quality. That's what we're trying to do in Spanish.
Wonderful. Thank you for that update, Kirk and Javier. So that gives you a little bit of a background on what we got started on and where we've been going with things. But I just wanted everyone now to just really quickly take some time to tell us, what are we trying to do in 2017 to improve on what we did in 2016?
Well, I'll just mention one thing. We do want to do some more infographics next year visually because it's a aesthetic that appeals to our target audience, and it also can communicate the know why and ideas we're trying to get across a lot easier than if someone's scrolling on their newsfeed or scrolling through whatever app they're on their phone, they might not stop to read an article, they might not stop to read a video, but if they just as much as glance at a graphic like this, and they can take 1 second to look at it, they'll understand what we're trying to communicate. And more than getting likes and shares, I think that's what's important, because we really want people to understand the Book of Mormon and get a better sense for what it can do for us.
Dave, what about the app?
Well, this screen you see here is one you see a lot in the current app. It's loading. So the new version that's coming out is supposed to be a lot faster. I spent a lot of time trying to get that worked out. If you turn to the next one. We want to make it easier to find stuff, so I'm improving the filtering and sorting. This is the original filtering options. This is and then the next one is what was improved. So we simplified it, and now the next screen. So now at the bottom of the screen, you'll see this button, and it'll pop up a thing like this on the next screen. And you'll see a lot more options here. Coming soon is the ability to search by tags and topics, and by book and by chapter, so you can really narrow down. We really want to make this a good experience on mobile, because it's the most accessible thing that people have. You know, you can be in the airport, you can be anywhere on your mobile device. You don't have to have a computer to read these things, to share them. We really want to make that a really engaging content and way to interact with the mobile app. We're also working on a new app called we're just kind of calling it the interactive text. It's a big project coming up. We're trying to ramp up, get the resources that we need so we can really work on this. So I think we have a
Yeah.
video. Oh, did I skip ahead?
Yeah, you did. You did, Dave.
I'm very sorry.
You'll hear more about that in just a minute.
Exciting, guys.
But real quick, Jared, why don't you tell about some of the improvements we've made to the archive?
Alrighty, so we've been going through an effort recently to make the archive more searchable. On the screen here, you'll see we now have 2 good indexes. One's for keywords and one's for authors. Soon we'll also be doing one for scriptures as well, so we'll be able to check by which articles in the archive cite which scriptures. That's an improvement that will take some time, but we're planning to do it, and we're very excited about it. Should I move on to labs? Sure. All right. We're also, I'm not actually in charge of this one, but I'm the one that was appointed to talk about it. We're doing something called Book of Mormon Labs. That is a video project to make different sorts of videos than the traditional Know Why videos we've been doing so far, ones that reach different audiences. And we'd like to show you right now a quick clip from this video. Just click. We'll do about 30 seconds. From a video that was done last night, one of the more popular styles in these days is a whiteboard video, where the things being said are animated in front of you. So this was an example that we created in our office, and that was finished last night.
So one of my favorite stories from the Book of Mormon is when the brother of Jared is kind of asked by the Lord about the lighting situation for the barges, right? So the brother of Jared says, well, what about lighting? And God says, well, I don't know, what about lighting? You can't have a fire, can't have windows. And basically says, well, why don't you go figure it out? And then the brother of Jared comes back with this seemingly kind of crazy thing of, here's these stones, why don't you touch these stones and they'll light up and we'll use these to light the barges. It's kind of a crazy thing to just jump to. But when you look at some Jewish traditions and just ancient Near Eastern traditions in general, there seems to be a tradition floating around that Noah used something like this to light up the ark. So it's almost as though the brother of Jared is...
We'll be posting that one in the future. But that's an example of a kind of video we're working on. Book of Mormon Central is invested. We've created our own studio in our office with a green screen where we do interviews and other things. There's a lot of exciting things coming down the pipeline that we're very, very excited to share with you.
Yeah, and a lot of those things are still under development, so we can't say exactly when you'll start to see those things come out, but we are really excited to see and start to exploring other video formats and ways to utilize video beyond just as something to supplement and summarize Know-Whys. Jasmine, so last year you were the one putting together the gospel doctrine lessons, and this year we're not really doing that, but what are we doing still to try and provide resources for teachers?
So like you said, Neal, last year we did gospel doctrine lessons where we pulled together all sorts of resources for teachers to use in their gospel doctrine lessons on the Book of Mormon, because last year's curriculum was Book of Mormon. However, this year we're doing church history, so we still wanted to find some way we could help teachers. And, we were a little stuck for a little bit, but it didn't take long for Jack Welch to come up with a great idea for how we can help. So we decided to start doing No Whys on church history. And we are still Book of Mormon Central, and so these aren't strictly about church history, but we decided we can find some way to tie the Book of Mormon into almost anything in church history. And while some people might feel that the Book of Mormon wasn't really as big a deal in the early church once it was published initially, Jack Welch firmly believes that the Book of Mormon was crucial to the restoration. And so we've started publishing, handfuls of church history no-whys that talk about how the Book of Mormon influenced the restoration and how everything we do in the church today can stem back to the Book of Mormon. The other thing we're doing to help teachers is, apart from gospel doctrine, we're doing seminary helps, because this coming year will be the Book of Mormon curriculum for seminary. And what we're doing for that is we're doing no-whys for doctrinal mastery. And this was Neal's brainchild, because the scripture mastery program that used to be in seminary has now been replaced by this doctrinal mastery program, and it's still pretty new, and a lot of teachers are still struggling with how to teach these topics. So what we've done is we've come up with no-whys that deal with both the scripture passages that students are required to learn, and we do a no-why that goes through each of those and what they can learn, what we can offer more. And also, we do no-whys on these scriptural topics. So, for example, the Godhead, priesthood, family. And so we hope by doing these church history no-whys and these doctrinal mastery no-whys, we can still provide something that will help teachers as they teach in gospel doctrine or seminary this coming year.
Yes, thank you for that. And just real quick, from a research perspective, we are also initiating some new projects from our researchers. One of them is going to be a questions and answers section on our website where we will provide brief answers to common questions that a lot of people have about the Book of Mormon, and point people to more comprehensive resources where they can go and learn more about those. We'll also, and that will actually be launching within the next month or so with the initial batch of questions there. And that's being led by one of our researchers, Jonathan Riley. And then we are also building a comprehensive evidences database for the Book of Mormon. And that one's a little that's going to be a little further down the road. I can't promise that one by April, unfortunately. But that one's being led by another one of our researchers, Ryan Daly. And then Dave, why don't now you can go ahead and tell us about the interactive scripture app.
Awesome, thank you. So last summer we had a team take some time the whole summer to design a new app which would really enhance our ability to find information, what scholars have written about the Book of Mormon. And we wanted to put this in a really easy way to access while reading the Book of Mormon. So we're developing this interactive text. So let's just go ahead and show this video.
Book of Mormon Central is currently working on a one-of-a-kind, top-of-the-line app that will immerse readers into the scriptures, helping them interact with the sacred texts alongside maps, multimedia, and other resources. The central focus of the app will be the LDS scriptures, with multiple versions and options available for reading. For example, users can view parallel accounts of similar passages, such as Alma's miraculous conversion, or the Sermon on the Mount found in Matthew and 3rd Nephi. State-of-the-art navigation allows you to access in-depth resources, including cross-references, dictionaries, prophetic commentary, virtual tours, and more. Imagine reading in 1st Nephi about Lehi's journey down the Arabian Peninsula, then clicking to view an interactive map of the probable trail they followed. As you explore, you watch a short video about the likely site of Nahum, where Ishmael was buried, and then read the linked No-Why article with its references and footnotes. Beginning with the Book of Mormon, the app will eventually grow to incorporate all the LDS standard works. Resources added from partners such as the BYU Virtual Scriptures team will include incredible interactive 3D models such as the Temple Mount at the time of Jesus and the original Nauvoo Temple, with the ability to explore each of the floors. The Interactive Scriptures app will bring all the best resources into one location, allowing both students and teachers to study the Scriptures with the finest research tools and spiritually relevant information available. The Interactive Scriptures app will help many more of God's children feast upon the words of Christ and to remember the New Covenant, even the Book of Mormon.
So as you can see, this is an ambitious project, and it's going to take a while before we get to the point that you can kind of see in there. That's for illustration purposes, and it might not look exactly like that, but what you see there are the essential features we would like to have in here. It's just at your fingertips, all this information, visual content, to really bring the Scriptures to life, to really help young people and old people alike to find faithful content that can help strengthen testimonies. And we're hoping to have the resources soon to really tackle this project in a much more rapid way. I'm the only developer right now, but yeah, so that's coming out. Like I said, we're going to do this incrementally, so a somewhat simplified version of this will be coming out soon. I won't give you an exact date, but within the next while.
That's right. And as Dave mentioned, I mean, we are having a lot of fun doing what we're doing. We're also working really hard, and as Dave mentioned, we need a lot of a lot of help to accomplish what we want to do. And so, if anything we've talked about here today interests you or gets you excited, we would really encourage you to help us out, either by volunteering your time to assist us on in various ways in some of these projects. We need people to review content. We need people to we need people. We need people. If you have a pulse, we can use you, I promise. But we can also use more funding. The Interactive Scriptures app, the more money we have, the sooner that can be available. Dave needs a lot of help. He can't do this by himself. So we would really encourage you, if anything we just talked about here that we've been doing, that we're planning to do, that we're working on, please contact us at the registration table, pull one of us aside, let us know if you can help in any way, either volunteering or if you'd like to make a donation. You can also, as you can see from the image here, you can donate on the website as well. You can contact us through the website if you want to, if you don't catch any of us here and you want to help out, you want to volunteer, just let us know and we'll find a way to use you. But yeah, that's everything. So thanks.